What's your view if the season can't be finished? What do they do? Do they null and void it? Do the league stand?
You've then got a whole more load of debate. If you void a season, it means it didn't happen. That means all the TV money that's been paid for it, all the season ticket money that's been paid for it, all of these things, does that become refundable? So I think voiding a season is a really, really difficult thing to do. I think if you ended the season now, and you've got all these promotions and relegations that people might say haven't been fully earned, whether that has integrity, I don't know. If you do nothing and you say nothing moves at all, like they've done in the lower leagues, that might legally work, but it doesn't. It still leaves lots of people upset. So I think that everybody's doing the right thing in trying to finish it if we can. You know, in terms of people are saying finish it for the integrity of the competition. I'm not into it for the integrity of the competition. I think that integrity is already gone. If you had brilliant momentum, you know, we were just about to play Carl and they just won God knows how many games back to back. You know, but will it be the same when he comes out to play us in our game back in the, you know, we'll both be at exactly the same point then. You know what I mean? So how does it go? It's like a beginning of the season game. So it's not just about integrity of competition, but it is about finding the promotions, the relegations, making sure everybody feels that they've had a chance to do their best. It's the same for everybody. So those clubs that suddenly don't do as well, they won't have anything to argue if they have played the games. And, you know, I'm actually really looking forward to starting the games because I think the solidarity we've shown, I can't wait to see that in action. On the pitch, I really can't, and all the support behind it. As I say, you know, in a bad news time, which all this is just people dying and the hospitals in total mess and no one being able to do anything, but actually the country standing together and getting the numbers down, our business standing together with footballers as well, making sure we can cash flow ourselves through this crisis. These are good news stories that are going to be very relevant when we all come back to work.
The cash flow that is coming in is coming from season ticket renewals. Have you been pleased with how many you've received so far?
I think pleased is an understatement, Jeff. I think and look, I think our fans are some if not the best in the country because they've had to put up with so much trouble all the way through. They absolutely know what supporting a football club is like, good and bad. But I think football supporters in general, you know, maybe other people don't understand this, but they are with their club. They are stakeholders in the club. They are people that believe that the club represents the community and where they're from and gives them that entertainment and those discussion points. And our season ticket holders have something like 95% of them have stayed doing their season ticket because their season tickets for next season are being taken now in direct debit. They spread it over the 12 months and they are paying now. That money is absolutely crucial because that, again, shows the commitment. It gives people confidence. If you're borrowing money and everything else, they can see money coming through the doors. So I'm hugely grateful to our supporters for that. And I think when I've talked to other clubs, I think we have one of the best results in the country. But I think that a lot of chairmen have been shocked at the amount of season ticket holder money that is still coming in for next season. I think football supporters in general, if you're a season ticket holder, you love your club and you don't want to see it in trouble. And they know this time it's not a mad chairman that's spent too much of the money or somebody or a player that hasn't performed. You know, this time it's this unseen virus and we've all got to fight it together. And it's back to that solidarity point that I keep making to you during this time, you know, that it's that solidarity that separates us as a nation, separates us as a business and will separate us as a club. And I can't wait to see what that means in terms of our players performing on the pitch for this season's games, for next season's games, just any games, just as soon as possible, but only when it's safe, only when you're not asking people to take ridiculous risks or putting too much extra pressure on the health system. Or, you know, you've got to do it right, Jeff. You know, and as I say, I don't want to sound boring, but sometimes you have to do it collectively and you have to do it right. And this is one of those times.
Just one final one from me. Any of the squad shown any signs of illness? Russell squad?
We have Simon Crampton is continuing to work. I couldn't furlough everybody in the end. When the furlough rules came out, there had to be some people that came off furlough because some people had continued to work in the club. that's a further hit on the cash flow because you can't get the government help on that one. But there's a few people in the business, of course, that have had to keep working. Simon Crampton is one of those because obviously he's taking calls from ourselves, from players, working out regimes and making sure that, where the players are. So we have, and we report this to the EFL every week, but Simon is talking to the players twice a week, filling out who's been into contact with who, in terms of their family, friends, etc., where COVID-19 is anywhere near them, whether it's an aunt, an uncle, a brother, a doodah. We've got all the full details, and we actually do give that into the FL with obviously the players' permission, and that's part of the information that the EFL have got to look at how many people in football have had it, how many people have been exposed to it, how many people haven't been anywhere near it, where are the numbers that mean can we get squads together, could they do training behind it? It's all part of all the information, the big data that you need to be able to make these big decisions, which you will never get right. And I think we've always also got to know that. Whatever decision, which you've seen that with the government, isn't it? Yeah, whatever decision you make, it's never right. Because there's always the ability to criticise. But what you need to show is some leadership. You need to make things happen. You need to be in a position to be able to take something forward. And where I am confident in the football authorities is everybody is looking at every way possible to take the projects forward. And that's why I want to be there to do. Milton Keynes Dons will be there to do what we need to do, when we need to do it, and we will do it well and we will do it properly.
Pete, you mentioned, or you touched on the stress that you're feeling. Is this the most stressful time in all of your business career? Because you obviously went through trying to move the club in the first place.
Not in recent weeks. I think we've obviously there's been huge focus on the players and what's going to happen there. I think the few days when we went from something like a 96% full hotel and it crashed over 3 days until we shut the doors, and that was the shock. And as that happens, we're having daily crisis meetings in the board. And we're having to look at what we're going to do. And we're looking at the cash and we're looking at the cash flow. And, I've been really excited by some of my fellow, see what we call the senior leaders in the business, because one, they shared a lot of the burden and responsibility that I have for it all with me to make it a lot easier for me to carry. But I've also seen some amazing work from Nielsen, who runs the hotel, or from Anthony, who does the finances, or actually just about everybody has really stepped up to the game. But at one point, I was having to look at getting rid of everything that I'd built up, Toby. I must have spent probably 3 days at that level. People that did see me during that time, because we were still in and out of the stadium at that time, it hadn't closed at that point, we could see what was happening and feel what was happening. I think that was definitely the worst point of my business career, because what you realize is what's important, and what actually is important. And again, what I've been able to say is people, isn't it? At the end of the day, everything else is just things. But it's actually what you do with the people. And I've had times in my life, we all have, or many of us have, where it's very hard to make the ends meet, and you're always spending more than you get. It doesn't matter what you're earning or not earning. So it was really, how do you find a way? And at one point, it was looking like there wasn't a way, which is why I have made the most political comment I've probably ever made in my life about this furlough scheme was absolute sheer genius. Because otherwise all of those people would have been on having to sign on and on the dole and everything. But actually, you think about those individuals, and those people, I know them, Toby. They work for me. They give me their best every day, and I was going to have to send them into a job centre. And that's the thing I'm absolutely most relieved for. I've got a great bank. The government have done the right thing, and I've still got my business intact, even though it's not trading at the moment. So I'm actually, I'm not under anything like the same stress that I was, because I'm actually now looking to the future. Okay, how do we recover from this? We're going to be in a much worse position when we come back than we were when we started, because we'll have masses more debt than we had before. How are we going to deal with that? But instead of like being buried by it, we're excited by the challenge of, okay, so what are we going to do? You know, how many more concerts can we get in the stadium next year? You know, can we squeeze some things in? You know, all of these kind of things that you know, are positive, I'm being able to think about now. And the thing that's given me the biggest lift was the players, because even when it was agreed with the PFA, you know, it still had to be agreed individually with people. But as I've told them, and I'll tell you, you know, whatever they agreed with me, as long as I'm here, I'm a man of my word, and I have been that over 15 years or longer. And it's wonderful that people can believe in that, and that, as I say, gives me complete confidence that we'll be able to come through it at the end.
And speaking of the players, were there discussions before? I mean, obviously, this is a sort of universal agreement that they'll take this deferral, but was there discussion beforehand with your players about what potentially they could do to help out the business?
Obviously, there's a couple of players that I speak to, our captain, of course, you know, during the crisis, and I would be keeping him informed. But I have to be honest, I wouldn't ask my players to do anything unilaterally, because I don't think they could. All you need to do is put yourself in their position. So somebody down the road at one of the other clubs is getting this, and they're suddenly getting that. Why? That's why it needed to be collective. And I, you know, some people have gone off and unilaterally done things. I understand that in different circumstances you might have to do that, etc., etc. But the strength in an agreement is the collectiveness. So once the PFA had said this is a reasonable thing to ask the players if they're up for it to do, at that point I was able to ask the players. It was done within 24 hours. Not just done, signed, all the paperwork back. It's utterly, what you can hear, you know, it's absolutely rewarding and makes it absolutely worthwhile. And I won't let any of those players down, because that's why I believe that what they've shown is that solidarity. It's not just to do with the real money. Could we have scraped it together to have paid? You know, who knows? And I also agree with the PFA and the Football League that you can't decide what happens in May, June. We don't know what the future is. None of us know that. So we needed to know now for April payroll. We now know what we're doing on April payroll. So as Jeff said, let's kick it down the can for another 4 weeks, and let's see where we are then. Maybe in 4 weeks we can have an idea when we're coming back to football, whether it's to finish the season, and we'll have a much better idea than we have now. We'll have seen the numbers in the hospitals. We'll have all the reports. So I think we've got to just do it at that stage. So for May's wages, we will have a discussion again about what we're going to do. Where is the world? What can we do? Can we now pay 100%? Do we have to ask for more of a deferral? You know, I don't know. And what I do know is that the players will listen to what I've got to say, because they have. And I also know my staff will listen, or our staff, you know, because we've shown that solidarity, and that solidarity not just with each other, but with the country as a whole. And that's why, I can't wait to get going again, because I just feel, you know, really, really strengthened by that feeling of unison. And that's what I'm not reading about anywhere else. But it is there. You know, players are human, players are real, players interact with my staff every day, and it matters, and that matters to me.